The MC starts by explaining that, in his past life, he was a paramedic who died in an accident, and after his death, he woke up here, reborn in a fantasy world with awakenings and mutant beasts. In this new life, he is also an awakening. A system begins presenting a contract gem that consumes physical and mental energy to materialize a contract gem. Once the target voluntarily consumes it, their soul and consciousness will be completely bound to the summoner's will. This power should be incredible, but there's a small flaw. Suddenly, someone arrives calling for Ping, asking what he's doing. He changes his expression, saying he's not doing anything much, and asks if she wants a candy. She tells him to get out of there, saying no one would want to be controlled by an idiot. The MC realizes that's the problem. The target has to completely want to form a contract with him. After all, if someone doesn't want to, the gem won't have any effect. The previous owner of this body was so frustrated with this power that he nearly died of anger, and thanks to his past life, the MC knows how to handle stress very well. Otherwise, he'd be screwed. His colleague shouts that he shouldn't give up so easily, as the world is huge, and surely there must be someone willing to let him control them. Ping says it's easy for her to say that, but asks who, besides himself, would say yes to his contract. At that moment, he has an idea and can't believe he hadn't thought of it before. He immediately starts eating his contract gem, leaving his friend confused, as she doesn't even understand what he's doing. This causes his body to start overflowing with a green aura that shoots up toward the sky. She turns, concerned, and asks if everything's okay. He replies that it is, leaving her relieved, as she doesn't want to be scared like that again, and says she'll head back to the dorm since it's getting late, and she needs to report to the city guard the next day. She tells him not to wait for her. He says he's surprised, as she's taking everything very seriously. The girl responds that she's learned everything she needed to there, and now it's time to gain some real combat experience. He watches her, knowing that her dream has always been to protect the homeland, and now she'll finally have that chance. She asks him not to get discouraged, as when he's strong enough, maybe the two of them will even work together one day. He laughs, knowing that the school assigned to him was for farmers, and the reason is because he has a useless ability. Because of that, he responds that he'll probably end up at the farm. He says this, thinking they probably won't see each other anytime soon, and it's kind of sad to say goodbye like this, as that girl is technically the childhood crush of the original body. At that moment, a green aura appears near his body, making him really want to hug her, and he just does it, walking up to her and giving her a hug. He, watching his own body, freaks out, not understanding why the hell he moved on his own. Meanwhile, Jingyao was extremely embarrassed, stepping back and saying she has to leave. The MC tells her to be careful on her way, making her turn, embarrassed, and ask him to be careful too, bidding her farewell. Finding this situation strange, he looks at his own hand and tries to figure out if he just hugged her on his own, as if he'd commanded his subconscious to do it. This makes him wonder if it's just a coincidence, or if there's something more behind it. Thinking there's only one way to find out, he uses his subconscious and asks it to take off. His body is thrown far away. Then, he asks it to make the Iron Mountain stance, and his body does it too. Then, he asks it to do a flip in the air. After so many tests, he just collapses on the ground, exhausted, coming to the conclusion that he can definitely make his body perform practically anything, as long as it's within what's possible for a human. That means no flying, no transforming into an animal or anything like that. However, he noticed something quite interesting. It's possible to copy movements he's never physically practiced before based on his memory. Basically, if he has the physical strength to do it, he could master any martial art. So he just needs to increase his physical abilities. Besides all that, he imagines there's something more to test. The next day arrives, and he begins to open his eyes until he finally wakes up, seeing himself and wondering if he's in the cafeteria. Then he starts complaining about pain since his legs are killing him, but only then does he remember that he had ordered himself to run in the morning, and apparently his body followed the orders even while unconscious. This makes him happy, as his body can obey commands even if he's knocked out. Since no one is paying attention to him, he decides to observe everything around him using this power. On one side, he hears some people greeting each other. On the other, he sees several people admiring Shiyu, who is considered the goddess of the school. He carefully watches this girl, as she is the queen of the campus and apparently woke up early too. But suddenly, he hears a strange sound. Something terrifies him to the point of asking what the hell that is. A colossal monster next to him is devouring a person, and shocked by what he's witnessing, he asks if no one is seeing that creature, concluding that it is definitely not Shiyu. Suddenly, she asks if her classmate Ping is okay, as he looks a bit pale. She asks again why he's so pale. However, in his vision there's a monster behind her, and that's terrifying. He tries to calm down and responds that he's fine, that he just didn't sleep well due to some nightmares, and gets up, saying class is about to start, so he needs to go. The monster inside her smells fear and wonders if it's just an impression. The MC keeps walking, wondering why there's a mutant beast at school and how no one noticed it unless it's a hallucination. Intrigued by what he saw, he decides to tell a teacher, but he's startled when he looks through the door and sees another monster devouring a student, which makes him run outside screaming in despair. He sits down and starts crying, as something is clearly not right, wondering if this place is hell, and grabs the gem in his hand, asking if there's any connection since he started having these visions after forming a contract with it. He just wants to escape this and bites the gem again, causing his body to overflow with another green aura. This time, a system screen appears, saying that analysis is in progress until it is finally completed, and he sees a monster in front of him, which disappears shortly afterward. This leaves him panting, wondering if he awakened some kind of analysis ability. He looks at his hand and notices that his vision is different, and a system panel appears informing him that the summoning is Ping and the master is Ping. Moreover, there are several attributes distributed, and a contract gem that is at level 1. Its description says it consumes vigor and mental energy to materialize a contract gem. Once the target consumes the gem voluntarily, their life, soul, and consciousness will be completely bound to the summoner's will. Its effect is active. This makes him wonder what it means, as it's something about the contract and has a passive effect. Additionally, there's the absolute command, where he has total control over his summoning. Every command of his will be obeyed without question. The obedience is absolute. The user is required to obey every command of the summoner, fulfilling it with unwavering loyalty. Lastly, the basic analysis grants access to his own detailed stats and the ability to analyze targets. The success rate depends on the power difference between him and the target. Ping doesn't understand what the hell is going on and wonders if all of this was awakened after biting the gem for the second time. After that, when he returns to the classroom, he tries to understand step by step what's happening. First, he became his own summoner and summoning. Second, the only person under his control is himself, so no external influence can affect his body or mind. Third, illusions don't work on him, and that's why he can see through the disguises of these mutant beasts. When he tries to analyze them one by one, they all fail. Finally, he succeeds in his analysis, discovering that all of them are high-level celestial foxes, while he himself is only level 1, making him no match for them since they are level 26 and possess cognitive distortion, capable of manipulating the perceptions of targets, making them completely unaware of any abnormalities. The MC imagines that this cognitive distortion is a broken ability, since this celestial fox could devour someone right in front of others, and the people around would only see 2 people talking. These things make him think, as Jingyao's powers are mental, so she's probably from the psychic class. After that, outside the school, he continues on his way, unable to believe that these monsters are also outside the school. He says this as he passes by a couple and sees that the fox is on the girl, raising the question of how many of these monsters exist. His destination was the city guard headquarters, and he goes to the reception, being attended to by a girl who asks how she can help him. Ping replies that he's there to see Jingyao since she was supposed to have enlisted that day. At that moment, he notices that the receptionist is also a celestial fox, who asks him to wait a moment while she confirms if the girl is there. He goes to a bench to sit down, still unable to believe that even at the guard's reception there are these foxes, and he still doesn't understand how no one can see them. Suddenly his friend arrives, asking what he's doing there. The MC stands up awkwardly and says that apparently she's adapting well to the place. Jingyao replies that she is, and introduces him to all her new colleagues. He says he's happy about all of this. She, on the other hand, gets excited, saying that she's going to get stronger than ever to hunt the beasts that killed her parents, and mentions that her group is short on members, and maybe she should put in a good word for him, possibly recruiting him in the future. The MC feels awkward and says it wouldn't work out since his power is useless, and he's going to improve on a farm somewhere. He says this and bids her farewell so as not to bother her any further, turning around with a smile but changing his expression immediately since everyone there is a celestial fox, including his friend. As he leaves the hall, he's furious because the city guard should be the most powerful place in the region, but he doesn't understand how there are so many monsters there, and he laments because his friend joined that same day, and apparently, it was all for nothing. Suddenly, he stops, and looking at the entire city, he finally realizes that not just the school, but the entire city is already completely dominated by the mutants, and those who remain are just cattle in their twisted game. As he keeps walking, he analyzes the people around him with his ability and concludes that several of the celestial foxes are at mid and high levels. From level 1 to 9 is low, from 10 to 19 is medium, from 20 to 29 is high, and from 30 to 39 is apex. He concludes that even the best guards in the city wouldn't be able to defeat these monsters. Secondly, he's certain that the monster that killed Shiryu is on a completely different level. At least, that's what his instincts tell him. And without a doubt, if he tries to analyze it, he will discover its location instantly. He imagines that this specific monster is apex level, or perhaps even king level, which would be any level above 40. Moreover, if there's a celestial fox capable of fighting against awakeners above its category, it's probably the work of this same monster. Another conclusion he reaches is that most of these mutant beasts, the celestial foxes, are extremely intelligent. Basically, they are masters of disguise. However, it's all just an act. Additionally, their targets are powerful or high-profile individuals. The rest of the people are just cattle ready for slaughter, mere food ready to be devoured later. He's worried because fighting these monsters is simply suicide, but he can't just stand by and watch it all happen, wishing he were at least stronger. A week passes, and he wakes up in the middle of the night, imagining that he's waking up earlier and earlier in the past few days. But that's probably what happened since he's pushing his body to the limit. After all, he's been training hard over the last few days to level up. He has also been creating more gems to eat them, and perhaps awaken some powerful ability. But unfortunately, after awakening the analysis ability, all the other gems he created had no colors, and consuming them had no effect at all. But by some miracle, the day came when he obtained a colored gem. He decides to devour it, hoping that it works this time. An energy begins to overflow from within his body, so he decides to open the status panel to see if there's anything different from before. His current level is 2, and besides the ability he had before, he now has Nightwalker. Basically, this ability grants night vision, significantly reduces his presence at night, increases movement speed, reduces weight, and makes him completely invisible in the shadows. He already has the gem contract at level 2, which has a bonus effect that awakens a new ability upon leveling up. The MC gets excited since every time he levels up, he will gain a new ability, and if he keeps this up, he will be unstoppable. That said, he stands up and activates his Nightwalker ability, as it's time to train, and he can now test his new skill. He starts jogging and is surprised, as his vision is better at night than during the day, and as he runs, he notices something on the ground. He stops to check what it is, and realizes it's a ring. After using his analysis 4 times, he succeeds on the 5th try. This is the assassination ring. When used, all living beings will subconsciously ignore the wearer. High-level awakeners and above are immune. Looking closely at the ring, he notices something strange, and a notification informs him that playback will begin. In the vision he's having, he sees the imposter monster of Shiyu Luo. The other guy might be the owner of the ring and is definitely seeing Shiyu as a human, making him an enemy of hers or something like that. He charges at her, but he's cut in half with just 1 strike, which doesn't make sense to him since that girl was an orphan, leading him to conclude that besides himself, there are others in Pearl City secretly fighting against these creatures. Suddenly, a monster approaches, asking who is there. He panics since he wasn't supposed to be discovered like this. The monster arrives at the location and notices that the ring is gone, indicating that someone passed through, but it detects no trace of anyone, and doesn't understand how that's possible. It concludes that whoever it was has to be at least a mid-level awakener. It says this, and leaves the area, as it needs to report to the Monster King. The MC, who is hidden thanks to his ability, finally understands what happened since the ring was left on purpose as a trap, and he imagines that returning it would be even more suspicious. So, for now, he should just keep it hidden. It's 5:36 in the morning, and Ping notices that his Nightwalker ability, combined with the ring, has made him completely invisible to the monster, meaning that strength is not just about powers, but also about the combination with his equipment. Some foxes are walking, and a voice begins to call him, asking him to hide. He gets startled, asking who is saying that, until a kind of spirit approaches and says that they are already there. The elite of the monsters was already present. Now it's 5:40, and the foxes are in front of the MC's bed. One of the monsters says it's sure it's this guy, and raises its claw, asking him to die already, Its claw is face to face with him lying down, and the celestial fox finds this strange, since he's not showing any signs of emotion. If he were that trash who fled the battle, he would have gotten up in the same second to fight for his life. Furthermore, it comments that it doesn't feel the presence of the ring. The servant asks if they shouldn't just kill this human. After all, this person runs every morning. It responds that it's not the person, making it clear that this human is nothing but worthless food. With all its mastery, it says that they shouldn't waste food needlessly, making its servants kneel, saying they understand perfectly. After the monsters leave, the MC wakes up sweating a lot and spits the ring out of his mouth since that situation was embarrassing. Looking at the ring, he feels pleased since he ordered himself to sleep, and for that reason he didn't awaken, avoiding raising any suspicion. However, something is bothering him, as he is almost certain he heard Jingyao's voice moments before the celestial foxes arrived, but he doesn't know if it was just his imagination. Still seated, he tries to understand why he is being so sentimental, as he definitely needs to get stronger to avenge her. That said, he needs to try to live normally, to avoid raising suspicion from the foxes. Back at school, people are talking about how the city guard found a body cut in half near the school, and as far as he knows, it belongs to the notorious Black Star of Death, the greatest assassin in Pearl City. Ping ponders this, as this person is probably the one from the vision he had. This topic worries him, as this celestial fox managed to easily defeat such a powerful assassin, and he doesn't understand why the monsters are leaving the bodies out in the open this time. As he walks again, he formulates the theory that the celestial foxes are using this as a warning to anyone who goes against them, and they will definitely increase their vigilance from now on. Outside, he notices that apparently all the blacksmith shops in the city are controlled by celestial foxes, and after several failed analyses, he finally receives a notification of a successful analysis. He is surprised to receive a message stating that he has achieved 100 successful analyses so far, and because of that, the ability has leveled up to intermediate. He notes that his ability should now be more powerful, allowing him to analyze more formidable enemies. The celestial fox from that shop is at level 15, and is asking the MC to enter the store and look at the products. He thanks her for her kindness, and continues his journey, since he needs to find a shop that isn't under the monster's control. After walking for a while, he arrives at the Iron Soul blacksmith shop, and hears someone inside saying that the products are of the highest quality. The seller, spinning a sword, says that if the old man is willing to buy, he will sell at the lowest price possible, even if it pains him to do so. He asks if he wants him to feed his daughter. He says this while blowing smoke in the seller's face, who gets irritated and asks if, in addition to being senile, he is also deaf. Inside, Ping picks up a rapier and prepares to use his analysis. The blonde kid asks who this brat thinks he is and jumps toward him, asking him not to steal things like that. The analysis finally concludes, and this is the magnificent one-handed sword. Its quality is common, being a weapon that, despite appearing good, is useless as it is broken and poorly repaired. He feels frustrated to discover it is that terrible, and to make matters worse, the sword breaks right after, with the seller trying to grab it. This infuriates him, and he says that this brat ruined everything, and with immense power overflowing, he asks if he knows who he is, increasing his body size and stating that he is a direct disciple of Master Ma from the Martial Arts Academy. He starts to run, telling him to get ready, and several beams of light emerge with his high speed, creating several copies of himself at such rapidity. And when he finally prepares to strike, he receives a slap from the MC, falling straight to the ground and asking why the young man fought dirty. At that moment, he uses his analysis ability and discovers that this guy is Bao Guo at level 1, and his abilities consist of pure illusion, looking good to the eye but having no attack power. The blonde kid asks him to leave the store, and the MC turns away. He takes the opportunity to make a sneak attack, but he gets hit again, while Ping asks who is fighting dirty. Suddenly, someone enters the store saying they were only away for 5 minutes, and, in that time, the place got lively. It was a girl asking if the trash on the floor would get up by itself, or if she needed to show him the door. Hardly finishing that sentence, the boy runs away, apologizing. Meanwhile, the MC imagines that he should visit other shops, but the girl slaps her hand against the wall, asking him to stay since the two of them need to have a little chat. He, already breaking out in a cold sweat, asks what she wants to talk about, and she teases him, getting close to his face, saying she's just a hardworking girl who stays close to her uncle, who became troubled after losing his daughter. And looking at him, she notices he has a good body and a nice personality. She says this and grabs him, asking him to become a blacksmith to also take care of old Tifeng and the shop, assuring him he can relax, as food, accommodations, and salary are on them. Embarrassed by the situation, he thinks it's not a bad idea, considering he will learn forging skills and save a lot of money on equipment in the future, besides the fact that the shop doesn't seem to be under the control of the celestial foxes. With that in mind, he responds that it's fine, that he will become the king of blacksmiths. She gets excited by his enthusiasm and gives him a slap on the head, as she enjoys seeing how pumped the kid is. Still defeated on the ground, he imagines that first, he needs to figure out how he will survive under this girl's control. A few days pass, and Ping is sweating during his training, asking Cho Chiang if it's really necessary to do this. She says yes, and that it's actually looking good, explaining that this is the exclusive kneading forging technique, where different materials need to fuse while kneading the mass. She then asks him to wait a moment because she's going to the warehouse to get the mold, and reminds him that the fuel is in the bucket, so he shouldn't let the fire go out. She barely leaves the room, and he panics as the fire is about to die. Next to him are the scarlet serpent's scales and coal. Not fully understanding the explanation, he grabs the hot mass and, thinking, whatever, throws it into the fire to keep it burning. Because of this, a huge explosion happens, making the flames grow enormous. He wonders if he's dead and if he's now in the afterlife, and something in his chest emerges, sucking in all the surrounding fire, causing him to scream as he pulls the flames into himself until he finally goes expressionless, takes a deep breath, and asks how the heck the fire was put out. His heart is pounding, and he feels his chest is hot, immediately using analysis. He notices that his growth potential has increased again, considering the previous situation. Additionally, he sees that if he awakens a new ability, it will increase his growth potential. Leveling up an acquired ability, like analysis, will consume his growth potential, and as long as he keeps awakening new abilities, his growth potential will be limitless. He finds this strange since, as far as he knows, everyone has a limit to their growth potential, and he wonders if he is the only one who can awaken multiple times. He then realizes it was the fire devourer that absorbed the fire from that room. Pausing to reflect, he realizes he had already reached level 3 in the morning when he consumed the gem, but the effect was activated at night, thinking there might be some special circumstance or condition. At that moment, Cho Chiang returns and asks how on earth the house ended up like this, running toward him and asking if by any chance he threw the scarlet serpent into the stove, because that would cause a huge explosion, apologizing as she forgot to warn him. He says it's fine, but he's worried about the state of the house. She responds that everything's okay since he's fine, though she's curious and wants to know how he extinguished the fire, as a fire from the scarlet serpent is not so easy to put out. Ping, embarrassed, says it's a long story. After that, she notices that the material fusion was successful and that such a result requires extreme temperatures to achieve, praising him since he apparently has great talent and suggests that schools are blind. As with his performance, he could enter the greatest organizations. Hearing this makes him curious, and he says he's always heard about the City Guard and the investigation team as the 3 great organizations, but he doesn't know what the third one is. Cho Chiang puts the sword in the water, and when she takes it out, she reveals that the city is indeed part of the third organization, but no one knows what it's called or what it does. She says this and turns, asking if on that other day he was trying to buy a weapon, and offers him to take this dagger if he wants. He takes it in his hand, impressed, and asks if it's very expensive. This is the Dagger of Beauty's tier. Its quality is excellent, and ranges between level 10 and 19. The girl explains that this dagger would be worth at least $100,000. He is shocked to hear this, as it would be like 3 years of work for him, and he panics, asking how on earth someone like him, who earns $3,000 in salary, could afford it. She bursts out laughing, asking him to accept it as a reward for working so hard, and says that unfortunately, she has to leave on a mission, asking if it's okay that he doesn't go to school. The MC reassures her not to worry, as he completed the graduation procedures ahead of time. She says that's fine, and just asks him to keep an eye on the old man, as he is still unstable. Ping ponders this, as although the shop hasn't been targeted by the celestial foxes since it's not open for business, it might start attracting their attention after the commotion that happened there. Thinking this over, he decides to use his Nightwalker ability to observe the surroundings since it's night. Right away, he sees a little girl playing in a playground, who is actually a level 3 celestial fox. This intrigues him, as it's the first time he's seen a fox of such a low level, and with his dagger in hand, he reflects that they are both at the same level, but he has equipment boosts, so he should win in a fight. imagining that if he delivers a corpse of a celestial fox to the city guard or the investigation team, he could attract the attention of a major agency. Suddenly, part of his body freezes, and a voice asks if he's planning to attack a child. He freezes, as this voice tells him not to move, or it will kill him. He is shocked, as she appears to be a woman, and is much stronger than he is, since his night-walking ability and assassination ring have no effect against her. A kind of spirit appears again, telling the MC to meet her at the orphanage training ground if he doesn't want to die. It says this, and the ice holding him is shattered. He sweats coldly but feels relieved, as apparently this person is not on the side of the celestial foxes, otherwise he would have already been dead. After this, he goes to the requested location and remembers that he grew up in this orphanage, and there are several reasons he named it the orphanage training ground, wondering if this woman knows him, as there would be no other way for her to know his secrets. Meanwhile, he starts walking inside, and also realizes that this girl has been watching him the whole time and even stopped him when he was about to act. If she asked him to proceed this far, there must be a reason. Suddenly, a monster appears, leaving the MC confused about why there is a mutant beast in that forest, activating his analysis ability next. This is the armored poison rat, level 5. It has a poison sac that can release a powerful toxin through bony spurs at the tip of its tail. Seeing these stats worries him, as the monster is 2 levels above him, and he should probably retreat slowly, but with his dagger in hand, he changes his mind, as he cannot let this monster roam free. After all, in the morning, the children from the orphanage wander around the area, fully trusting the stats of the weapon his new boss gave him, advancing towards the monster, remembering that in the animes he has watched, the main character always becomes an expert in hand-to-hand combat right after gaining powers, and that's definitely nonsense. In this case, he may not know how to fight, but he can command his body to fight using martial arts. Then the monster uses its spinning ability, and he blocks, having been caught off guard because he didn't imagine it would use such an attack. As he continues blocking, he notices that the armor of this creature is too powerful, to the point where the dagger can't pierce it, needing to be creative somehow, deflecting the monster, which flies up onto a rock. He starts gathering energy in his tail until he reaches maximum power, then launches in the direction of the MC. He continues dodging, feeling like he's in a game, but since he controls the character, he needs to dodge from side to side because if he gets hit, it will be fatal. After the attacks cease, he notices that the monster's eyes are the only place not covered by armor, but this creature keeps wrapping itself in armor, needing to find a way to break this stance. Then, he uses his fire devourer, which can consume flames and convert them into elemental fire energy, storing them within his body. Currently, he has 100 points stored out of a maximum of 400. He understood how it works well, and is glad he paid attention in the boring history classes about the Pearl Fist, as the technique is about crushing the enemy with brute force, perfect against smaller opponents. That said, he charges for the attack, always dodging all the attacks coming his way until he gets close enough to strike. The rat immediately wraps itself in his armor, but that only excites him, as he expected this, and he thinks it's time to raise the heat, landing his flaming punch, which burns the rat for a moment, causing it to drop its guard. The MC takes the chance to ignite his dagger, as this is the golden opportunity, landing a direct hit on its biggest weak point, causing a huge explosion in the area. With that, he wins the battle, leveling up to 4 and increasing his resistance, strength, and agility. This makes him realize that real combat is much more effective for leveling up than training, but he finds this situation strange since there shouldn't be mutant rats there, and there must be something behind it. Just as he thinks this, he doesn't notice a shadow approaching, which sucks him to the ground, leaving him desperate as he falls freely. Suddenly a hand appears, overflowing with power, and catches him with its water power. He notices that the voice in the area is the same as the woman's from before. This girl has her ice sword pointed, giving him 5 minutes to prove he is human. Trapped in a kind of ice cocoon, he wonders why she is asking him to prove he is human, and doesn't understand how he wouldn't be one. Looking at the girl, he notices that she also seems to know about the mutants in the city, but she likely can't identify them as precisely as he can, and he asks if she could at least give him a hint, considering that the rat was just a test. She simply responds that there are 4 minutes left. Meanwhile, he tries to force the analysis but fails numerous times, and when he reaches 2 minutes, he unlocks the achievement that analysis failed 999 times, and the ability has leveled up to advanced, now being able to determine the target's faction loyalty. With that, his analysis successfully concludes, and he discovers that her name is Lu Sishan, Her squad is the Purge, and she is at level 28, possessing water manipulation. This leaves him surprised as it's a very high level, and it makes sense why the analysis never worked, in addition to his Nightwalker and the ring being useless against her. Another thing that intrigues him is this Purge squad, as he has never heard of it, and he imagines that it might be the third secret organization that exists in the city. The girl warns him that there's only 1 minute left, which leaves him desperate. He asks her to wait, mentioning that she called that place a training ground, and that must mean she was part of that orphanage. He says this imagining that, although he has never heard the name Sishan, she might have changed her name, and he asks if she is Turin Liu, remembering a girl who looked similar in his childhood, who always said she would conquer the fist that rips the sky and shatters the earth. He begins to recite the phrases that the girl used to say back then, like first, second, and third form of Cece's invincible fist breaking the sky. This leaves the girl completely embarrassed, and the MC notices, asking if she really is Sister Cece. She says she will move to the second question, and comments that, according to the records at the Academy, his contract gem ability was considered useless due to the practically impossible activation requirement. So she wants to know what the hell he did. He explains that 2 weeks ago, he swallowed 2 contract jewels, becoming his own summoning beast, and now has full control over himself, which makes him immune to illusions from mutated beasts, allowing him to see through their disguises. He tells her that, in fact, these celestial foxes are in huge numbers around the city, and that probably the entire clan has infiltrated it. Knowing this shocks her. He continues his explanation, saying that the abilities of these foxes are called cognitive distortion, and she, astonished, asks if he is really serious about this. He replies that he is, and comments that the cafe owner, the owner of the Juan furniture store, and the 3 blacksmiths on Longju Street are celestial foxes. He also mentions that the little girl from earlier, whom she stopped him from attacking, is also a low-level celestial fox, and even asks her to check for herself if she wants. Sishan asks him to wait a moment, says she will be back soon, and using a jewel, contacts Jinbo, asking if all this information from the MC is reliable. He responds that, at first glance, he can confirm they have never heard of a mutated beast called Celestial Fox in the city before. But the ability Cognitive Distortion, mentioned in the conversation, has appeared before, and he asks her to send a team to apprehend the 2 shopkeepers, as they should be returning soon. Suddenly an explosion occurs behind him, and some team members run, causing Jinbo to ask what happened. The recruit shouts to the team leader that the cafe owner went crazy and is attacking everyone while they were taking her out of the city. She approaches to attack him, but he simply concentrates energy in his fist and delivers a punch to her stomach, finishing the monster instantly. Her body begins to change shape until it returns to its original form, which is that of a celestial fox. Jinbo comments that, with this, Ping's information is true, and that they finally know what they are dealing with, asking all team members to alert the others about the situation. At the same time, at the Pearl Academy, a girl is relaxing lying outside until something catches her attention. Her assistant asks if something happened, but the girl just begins to fly, commenting that Ju was killed by someone outside the city. She then realizes that another has also been killed. This leaves her completely irritated, as they were killed instantly, erasing the presence of her servants, even preventing them from being tracked. She then asks who the hell these people are. Still in the dark room, the MC asks if she has verified the authenticity of the information she passed. She replies that yes, but she is still not sure, for example, if this ability to see through illusions isn't a trap they created themselves. For this reason, she warns that she will protect him, as he will be her eyes and ears, and if he finds anything, he just needs to contact her at night. He thinks it's cool to have such protection and says it's okay since it's about dealing with the celestial foxes. She throws him a pendant, saying that these come in pairs. One is the cold jade, and the other is the warm jade, and if he is in danger, he just needs to cover the cold jade with flames, and the warm jade she has will heat up, alerting her to the danger, and she will run as fast as possible to the location. She also emphasizes that even so, he should strengthen himself, as it is not wise to rely entirely on someone else. The MC agrees and was even thinking about joining the martial arts academy, but the prices are exorbitant. Sishan says she will ask the organization for help to train him, but she asks him to try to enroll in the school. He thanks her for the help. A few days pass, and it is noticeable how much the number of celestial foxes has decreased, and the squad is doing an excellent job. Nothing else matters to him as long as he can help eliminate them, and he is also happy that they paid 10,000 coins up front, which is quite generous. In front of him is a girl asking people if they want to learn the Beast King's fist. He becomes interested and asks to see the brochure, quickly noticing that it is really not cheap. The girl, all excited, explains that it is worth every penny since the techniques of the Beast King's fist are quite famous in the city. He feels awkward with how close she is, but the girl says she can do a demonstration if he doesn't believe her. She starts her explanations about the fighting style, and the MC immediately uses his learn ability. She begins with a punch, explaining that the set is essential in a battle in its second form, and shows the third form, which is a kick in the style of the Monkey King. The MC is impressed, since the girl is definitely not trained enough. Just as he thinks that, the girl falls to the ground in the middle of her explanation. Two bullies approach, asking who authorized the distribution of pamphlets there. They say this, while the MC asks if she is okay. The girl apologizes, saying she didn't know she couldn't distribute in that location. A blonde guy arrives, saying that the Beast King fist would never be the best technique, as it is just trash, and suggests they practice at the Xingyi Martial School. The MC is surprised, asking if the Five Folds Lightning is kneeling in front of him. This infuriates Bao Guo, who says the name is Five Folds Lightning Assault, and orders both to kneel, shouting that the MC still needs to pay for what he did at the blacksmith shop, and that now is the right time to settle this. He orders his two henchmen to prepare. The girl steps in front, saying she won't let anyone intimidate him. The two immediately activate their powers, creating more muscles than before, and the MC doesn't waste time activating his analysis ability. He discovers that both are level 4 and have flesh fortification, which reduces intelligence by 70% in exchange for enhanced physical strength, with a maximum improvement of 30%. The brutes tell the girl not to interfere, as the matter is with the MC. Surprised by the ability to convert intelligence into strength, he asks if they really consider that a real ability. The girl steps in front, and Ping takes the opportunity to analyze her as well. Discovering that her name is Jimin, she is level 3, and possesses Diligent Will, which reduces learning ability by 90%, but any skill can be improved through consistent practice. Each day of practice increases the growth speed by 10%, up to a maximum of 1,000%. He is surprised as the girl has great potential, but he laments that, at the moment, she is asking for trouble by getting involved in this matter. For that reason, he throws the pamphlets back into her hand and asks her to step aside, as he will handle it alone, reassuring her since she just demonstrated the Monkey King style, and these guys arrived at the perfect moment for him to put it into practice. The two bullies shout that the MC is an arrogant kid and leap towards him. The first takes a hit to the neck, the second tries something but gets hit in the stomach. The blonde arrives last, using his special technique, but it doesn't work, as the MC is already using the third form of the Monkey King, hitting him squarely in the nuts. He mocks, saying it's a pity since he is down 2 people, and asks what it feels like to have the precious Five Folds Lightning reduced to just 3 knees. Jimin praises him, saying that the MC learned the Monkey King style by observing just once, and asks if he can teach her a move if she doesn't understand in the future. He says it's no problem, and she is happy, as this way she can get stronger in no time. Inside, the MC knows that this girl has the potential of 7 stars, and will at least become a high-level awakened one, perhaps even reaching apex level, and he is the one who will one day need her help. The two go to the martial arts academy, and everyone is desperate because they thought the instructor would return in a few days and don't know what they will do since they haven't mastered the technique yet. Ping asks why everyone is so afraid of the instructor. Jimin explains that anyone who hasn't completed their tasks is severely punished. He, curious, asks if she has ever been punished. The girl replies that only once, as she has only been there for a month and still hasn't mastered the basic movements. The MC notices that she seems to be bragging about this, but he's not sure if it's something to celebrate. Suddenly, the door opens, and everyone gets into position. The instructor's name is Bade, and he is at level 25. His ability is Mimic's Hunger, which allows him to temporarily assume the physical form of a creature he consumes. The number of forms he can store depends on his level. Ping notes that the Academy Master is really powerful since he is level 25, almost the same as Sister Sishan. Suddenly, the instructor notices the presence of a new student and asks if he is the one responsible for defeating the Xingyi clowns the day before. He asks if there's a problem if he is. The old man gets excited, saying he would like to see what he is made of, and prepares a punch. The MC panics, asking for a second, but several attacks come his way, forcing him to dodge them all and ordering his body to do so, questioning the purpose of attacking a rookie. Bade activates his flaming fists and asks how someone who mastered the Monkey King style with a single demonstration could be considered a rookie. Barely saying this, he delivers an extremely fast punch toward the MC's head, who panics, as he definitely won't have time for his body to dodge. However, the old man stops the attack and gently pats his head, happy to see someone talented there, as he himself didn't believe it when he found out. He says it's a pity that the person who demonstrated the style was a mediocre practitioner, because some of her footwork is a disaster, but he asks him not to worry, as he will teach the technique properly. The MC thanks him for the help. Then the instructor changes his expression, as it's time to see who has been slacking during training, and shouts for everyone to fight against him. Those who do not meet acceptable standards will do 500 push-ups in a row and a 10-mile run with a weight vest. This doesn't surprise the MC, as it was to be expected that someone with a body enhancement ability would have such brutal training. Suddenly, Yamin touches his back, and he asks if something is wrong. She, embarrassed, comments that the instructor doesn't teach her much, so she would like him to show her the proper way to do things, asking him to teach her privately. He replies that he would gladly teach her, and asks her to go to the Iron Soul shop after class, as he will be her training partner. This excites her, as she was sure she would get a no. He looks again at her ability, which decreases learning capacity by 90%, and is aware that this was basically designed to torture anyone trying to teach her. Understanding better why the Academy Master has no patience, she simply bows, thanking him, and says she eagerly awaits his guidance. A few days pass, and they are at the Iron Soul shop. Every time she makes a mistake, he just asks her to do it again. Despite her efforts, Jimin keeps falling due to the difficulty in learning. He laments this, as even practicing efficiently on her own, her ability complicates things. However, he is sure of one thing. This Beast King fist is truly more than it seems, as after practicing non-stop over the last few days, he feels he is on a different level. Suddenly, Cho Chiang arrives at the location, shouting that he is back. He is startled, looks to the side, and asks the girl to keep training while he goes to see what is happening. Upon arriving at the reception, he notices her saying that for some reason, there are hardly any wild or mutated beasts around, and explains that they had no choice but to venture deeper into the northern forests, worsening the situation since they encountered an entire pack of storm wolves. He, worried, asks if everything is okay. She replies that it is, as they managed to hide using her digging shovel, and since the wolves did not find them, they ended up attacking the local wild men, and at the right opportunity, she was able to grab something precious from the wolves. He notices that it is a rare quality wind gem. It can store elemental wind energy, and when channeled through mental commands by the user, the gem can release its stored power in the form of wind blades. She asks him to hold it since you don't see one of these every day. Upon taking it in his hand, he hears a strange sound overflowing from the gem, as if two people are arguing. And in the end, one says that Urshi is dead because of humans, and that it looks like he will have to eat two of them. When he opens his status window, he notices that the contract gem has awakened a new ability, Whisper of the Winds. This ability allows the user to passively hear the amplified thoughts of anyone within a 10-mile radius who is experiencing intense emotions, and it cannot be actively controlled. He feels pleased, since it is definitely a new ability similar to the Fire Devourer ability, and he is shocked to hear that there are two girls in the shop with a boy, and it was probably that boy who brought trouble to the noble. He immediately realizes they are referring to them and asks if it is a celestial fox. To make matters worse, he also hears that one will want to devour Jimin, asking the other to keep the boy. He is in shock, as it seems they are being hunted and he doesn't know from where. In another location, in the bathroom, Sishan is getting out of her bath and notices her active jewel, worrying her since this means Ping is in danger. Meanwhile, the MC is concerned because Sister Cece is taking too long and has no idea where she is, as the celestial foxes are getting impatient and should arrive at any moment. The redhead notices him fidgeting and asks if everything is okay. He knows internally that the situation is not good at all. After all, the two foxes are of medium level, so even with Cho Chiang's help, they will be easily defeated. He thinks of something and asks if she hasn't seen the uncle yet because, if that's the case, he asks her to go visit him. She replies that she is fine, but it has been a while since she last tasted the old man's food and warns that she will take the wind jewel with her. He says goodbye, trying to imagine how he will get Yimin out of there first. Upon arriving in the yard, he notices that she is training and grabs her arm, asking her not to make a sound and just to follow him. Suddenly, the celestial foxes appear, asking where the lovebirds think they are going. In the girl's view, her parents are in front of her, and she asks what they want. The MC asks her not to get closer. Jamin asks her to relax since the two people there are her parents. He assesses their levels. One is level 15, and the other is 16. Her supposed parents ask who the young man is, as he seems terrified of their presence. She replies that he is a schoolmate, while the MC doesn't let her approach them. Suddenly, a shadow emerges and covers them both. He immediately realizes that this is the dark room and imagines that he arrived at the perfect time. Ping grabs the girl since they are about to be sucked in, but she screams for her father and mother. The foxes become furious, telling them to run since both are fleeing, and he grabs her tightly, asking her to hold on tight. They are thrown into the room, but the foxes manage to enter as well, thinking this is a drag since they are right behind them. And to make matters worse, one of the foxes delivers a solid blow to his back, causing the girl to scream, asking what is happening. Already inside the dark room, the dust begins to dissipate, and Ping prepares, grabbing his sword, while the girl has no idea what is happening. As the foxes position themselves, Yemin insists on calling them, believing they are her father and mother, but the MC asks her to step back since the two creatures are mutated beasts. The monsters are surprised that someone there is seeing through their disguise and launch an attack, as this is just another reason not to let him live. They unleash the first attack, forcing him to defend since it was so fast that it would be practically impossible to dodge. The other fox takes the opportunity to go after Yemin, as it sees her as its mother, leaving him desperate since he doesn't know what to do. The two are cornered, and he worries that he won't hold on for much longer, until Sishan appears, asking him to get out of the way. Using her ice ability, she pierces both celestial foxes at the same time, then jumps in to finish the job, attacking repeatedly with her ice spikes. She lands back on the ground and asks if the two are okay. Yamin breaks down in tears, asking why that girl killed her parents. The MC tries to explain that they weren't her parents, but rather celestial foxes wearing their skin. However, it's no use, as she is terrified, clearly seeing that her father and mother are dead on the ground. Ping asks Cece why the monsters aren't revealing their true forms. She explains that there is evidence suggesting the presence of a king-level celestial fox within the city wall, and this amplified the illusion of her entire group. That said, even a low-level fox could deceive a high-level awakened being, and those that revealed their identities were the monsters outside the city. He looks down and walks over to the fox, thinking that he might be the only one able to see through these illusions. He says this as he removes the mask the monster was wearing and explains to Yimin that these foxes murdered her parents and took their form. She is in shock upon hearing this, until the fox returns to its original form, causing her to cry again, as she does not understand how something like this is happening. The leader of the celestial foxes notes that 9 of her servants have been killed in a single week and concludes that humanity has found a way to combat illusions. One fox present asks Her Highness why they don't simply kill everyone and take over the city. Another servant asks what they will eat afterward. Grass, perhaps. The queen shouts for silence and replies that this is the problem. If they exterminate everyone at once, they will run out of food, and their top priority at the moment must be to lure those hiding in the shadows and eliminate them one by one. She asks the vice mayor if he has any suggestions. He suggests that maybe it's time to attract other species to the city, stirring things up and reducing the herd, making it easier to eliminate the strong ones afterward. She asks how he can be sure the strong ones are still in the city. He comments that there are 3 major organizations. In addition to the city guard and the investigation team, there is one more. He also mentions that the lord of the city was severely injured by the king and fled, perhaps hiding in this secret organization, and they are definitely in the city waiting for the right moment to attack. One fox says that it really seems like a good idea to bring other species into the city. The Highness stands up and says it's perfect, but asks them to remember that the king is still asleep. She then gives a warning to the human present that, despite having earned their gratitude, she doesn't want to see him stepping out of line for even a second, and if he does, she will finish him off on the spot. She asks if he understood that well. He kneels and replies that he would never think of doing something like that, and he only wishes for the city to soon be taken by the strongest. Meanwhile, Jimin is trying to process everything that happened and, trembling all over, touches the blood on the ground, crying soon after, calling for her father and mother, apologizing since if she had known, she could have done something. Sishan asks what she could have done about it, knowing what she knows. The MC gets irritated by the insensitivity and asks her to have a bit of sense. Sishan starts shouting that all of this is her own fault for being weak, that she can't even master simple martial arts techniques, and asks why this had to happen to her parents. Ping is worried about her reaction, especially since she asks why she didn't die in their place, but he immediately hugs her, asking that one thing be clear: the blame is not hers. He tells her that he also lost something important, like a friend who was murdered by the imposter foxes, and he thinks about this every day since maybe, if he had prevented her from joining the city guard, it could have been avoided. Maybe not, but he is absolutely sure that even if he could turn back time, the outcome wouldn't change. After all, joining the city guard was her dream, and no one would stop that. He says he can't change what happened to her parents, but they can fight for a better future by becoming strong enough to protect those who are important. She breaks down in tears, thanking him for his profound words. He begins to say other things but then coughs up blood, leaving both her and Sishan confused, and soon his vision fades since he ordered his body to hold the wounds but didn't expect it to last such a short time. Sometime later, he starts to open his eyes and finally wakes up, making both of them happy to see him well. He asks how long he was unconscious, but they just ask him not to move so the wound doesn't reopen. Jimin grabs his arm and says she has decided to become stronger and makes a peace sign, stating that when she is stronger, she will help him exterminate all the celestial foxes on the planet. Ping is pleased with her determination and says he fully believes in her abilities. Sishan warns Yamin that her home is no longer safe after these events and asks her to stay there for a while since it will be easier to ensure their safety. Suddenly, the MC begins to hear that the king still sleeps and about Zemming knowing his place as a human. He wonders if this voice belongs to the celestial fox disguised as Shiryu, and immediately informs his companion that he has clues about the whereabouts of the celestial foxes. Moments later, after telling what he heard and about this Zemming, Sishan concludes that this Zemming, who is the city's vice mayor, has betrayed humanity since he is with the celestial foxes, and deduces that this king mentioned in the conversation is the one amplifying the illusions, as they are powerful enough to deceive apex-level awakeners. Being the true king of the celestial foxes, Sishan suggests that if the king is indeed out of action, it might be the perfect moment for a counterattack, and asks Ping to please help them identify these celestial foxes. Without thinking twice, he replies that he's in. Meanwhile, at the Iron Soul store, the old man says he's starving, and his granddaughter asks him to wait a little longer since Ping should return with the groceries soon. At this moment, at the team's base, a girl is excited because they need her help to activate the secret bed, as well as help to activate the celestial curtain. This is Manny, accompanied by Loe, saying that Sishan really knows how to boss people around. They open the door to the place, and another girl asks if she wants coffee since it might take a while. Manny replies that she's fine since she just ate. The girl says that's okay, and begins what she was going to do, stating that the solar charge has been completed. This is Shuji. All the girls are under the magic circle, one completing the black curtain and the other completing the distortion of light and shadow. With this, the powerful celestial curtain of illusory light covers the entire city.
If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, and like the video. Thank you.